Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So the month of October is almost over and that means that November is here. And for me, November goes together with NanoWriMo. So if you don't know what NanoWriMo is, it stands for National Novel Writing Month and it always takes place in November where people all over the world go together on this online website to get one thing done, to write 50k words for their own novel in the span of November. I've participated last year and last time I totally pantsed it. I did not have anything prepared except for a rough idea. I started writing and I didn't stop, and if you see my graph, insert somewhere here, you can see how amazingly crazy it was. I ended up reaching my goal of 50k and I ended up loving it, and unfortunately my novel pretty much sat on the shelf until now, but I really want to finish it as soon as possible, which is why I'm prepping for NanoWriMo this year, and I'd love to show you some stuff that I learned from my experience last year from winning, because now I feel like I actually have stuff to kind of support my success. I can say, hey, you can do something similar and you can succeed. So if you haven't heard about NanoWriMo, but if you're interested, don't hesitate, get started. It doesn't matter that there's not so much time left for prepping. You can totally pants it and win anyway, and it's such great fun that I think anyone should give it a go if they like novel writing or writing any sort of stuff really. So this year I've set some time to actually go through my outline and try to polish it up a bit. Since I was a bit familiar with the story already, I knew where the weak spots were, and this is what I'm currently working on. So I actually made a notebook. Here it is, it's called the Master Plan, and yeah, it's pretty thin, but I figured this would be a good spot for my thoughts. This would kind of be a dossier spot for my characters to kind of learn about them a bit more. So in my novel, I'm centering it from a perspective of one main character, and that main character is the most developed one for me because I already kind of envisioned the story from her perspective. So what I'm currently working on is I'm outlining the novel, which I did. I was kind of, I was really confused with outlining. I didn't know where to start because I didn't study literature or anything. So what I found out is there is a method called the snowflake method, which means you're starting out with a really small sentence that kind of sums up what your novel is about. Then you expand it to a paragraph, then you expand it to a couple of pages, then you go into detail, and so on and so on. And I found that this method is quite helpful. You don't need to follow through all the steps. I will include the link to an article below that outlines it all. And it kind of really helped. So another thing that I learned from the snowflake method, there's this thing called the 7-point system, which kind of outlines your basic conflicts, your basic hooks, your plots, twists and turns. Just to show you, this is kind of what my layout looks like. It's still quite rough and I'm not going to let you zoom in on it because, oh my god, this is trash at this point. I can honestly say that it's no good yet. But it really helped me to find where the weak spots in my story are, and some stuff that I need to add becomes clear from this chart that you do. So I would recommend it. I would also leave a link to a playlist of videos for writing below. One of them is a series that outlines the 7-point system, which is very convenient for everyone who's working on their outlines, and also writing lessons or kind of writing novel lectures by Sanderson, which I watched last year, and I don't think I watched them all, so there's some more stuff in store for me. It's a really great series. He's lecturing students from one of the American universities, and he outlines everything from characters to plot, and it's really cool. Even if you're already writing Nano, you can still listen to it and kind of gain some perspective. So one of my entries is this guy here. I made some pages to outline answers to basic questions like morals, backstory, and that kind of stuff, and I'm just filling in the blanks. You definitely don't have to do all that, especially if you know where you're coming from, but I feel like I need some stronger motivations for some of my characters, which is why I'm going through all this hassle. Another way to prep for NanoWriMo is to compile a playlist of music that will get you going. If you have a storyline, you probably kind of know what kind of story it is, so you can compile a playlist. If you're totally in the dark, like last year, I used Muse a lot to help me with my sound, like writing, because the intense scenes really flowed well with songs like Starlight and everything. This year I'm feeling a bit like Ellie Goulding because she has a lot of flair for the dramatic, but also if you're like just writing fantasy like me or something ambient, you can definitely look up Peter Gundry. I think I linked him in my vlogs from last year. He's a composer here on YouTube. He does really cool videos and the music is really beautiful, and you can find a playlist for every taste, so I think it's quite nice to keep on the background, especially if you're doing something witchy or moody or dark. His music will definitely help you out. With fantasy, it's a great help. Of course, like the Lord of the Rings soundtrack is always my go-to, but I don't really like soundtracks from movies when I'm writing because they give me an idea of a different world and I really just want to focus on something of my own. So I need music that I'm not familiar with so that I can weave it into my story. Another thing you can try is ambient sounds or ASMR, which is a huge community on the internet. You don't really need to go into depth, but there are a lot of role plays from ASMR that kind of set the mood, or things like ambient sounds from the Gryffindor common room, that's also available on YouTube. You can be really surprised by things you can discover on YouTube sometimes, but this is something really good, so I definitely recommend it to everyone who's writing and needs some background noise, maybe some typing sounds from a cafe. That also really works well. A little advice on how to stay on track. For me, as you can tell from my graphic, it was really important that I write a little every day. I did not go crazy on my first days. I just hit the goal every single day, and I think I missed 2 days only because I had other stuff planned and I didn't manage to squeeze it into my schedule. But you should find out what makes you fall out of the rhythm. For some people, it's something like you're writing very intensely the first week, then you have a bit of a gap, then you start stressing towards the end and pick it up again. For me, I think it's harder to fall back into it than falling out of it, so it's very important for me that I don't let myself be like too lazy and skip out on it, because it's way harder to get back into it once you've missed a day, because you kind of lose the power of the habit. If you need a bit of external motivation, another thing you can do is join the Nano Word Sprints on Twitter. I did it a lot last year and I quite enjoyed it. There are sprints going every hour or half an hour for 15 or 30-minute sprints, helping you to get your 1000 words or even more than that. So all you have to do is just sit down and write and have tunnel vision, and you can keep Twitter open because they let you know how much time is left, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes left, and they encourage you and they give you prompts. So if you're totally in the dark and you want to go just write, you know, you don't have a story or anything, you can usually use their prompts because they're fun, they give an idea for a dialogue. Of course, if you've outlined, it probably won't fit too much into the narrative, but sprints is a great way to feel a part of the community, to show off your word count in the end, and kind of feel good about yourself, which is very important during NanoWriMo. You have to understand that it's all about moving forward and believing in yourself. Another very, very important thing, and I feel like this is advice that any successful or non-successful NanoWriMo would give everyone else, is don't look back, don't reread whatever you wrote. If you have to pick up from the day before, read one paragraph, hold your hand so that you don't edit any of the stuff you've already written, and move the hell onwards, and you will edit everything later. It's going to be trash either way because you're writing really fast and your mind is bubbling with all these thoughts and you have to put them down on paper, and it's going to be a mess either way. So your purpose is just to put an idea on paper as much as possible without turning on your editor. You have to shut it out. You have to be confident. You have to just remember that you're working towards a very rough idea of where you're going to end up, but it's way easier to edit something that you already have than going over the same paragraph 30 times being unsatisfied. You have plenty of time to do that after NanoWriMo. NanoWriMo is just to help you build your story in a very friendly environment. I found the forums really, really useful, but you should remember it's really dangerous to get stuck there, because reading forums and replying and communicating is not writing. So do your writing first. If you have any questions and you're feeling like, oh well, taking a time to post an entry would take too long, I don't have any time for this, just post an entry, mark it, bookmark the spot in your novel, and then move on. Put blanks in. I did it last year when I didn't know the name of the city, the name of the character, some detail that I wanted to insert. I was just highlighting it and saying this is incomplete, this should be looked over, and then just moved on. So clearly there are a lot of loose threads to be picked up in the book. It's impossible to keep track of it all. Another tip, if you're just starting out and you're thinking of sitting down to write, one great thing that I learned, I started last year with using documents, like Word documents, and I was really unhappy with it. I was like, it's good for like essays and stuff, but when you need to reorganize things and see your novel at a glance, it's really uncomfortable. You don't remember where everything is. It's kind of just uncomfortable for me. What you need to know is that NanoWriMo offers a free trial together with Scrivener. Scrivener is a writing tool program used on iOS and also on regular Windows, and I totally loved it. When I was a quarter into November last year, I decided to switch from the doc, and I downloaded Scrivener free trial, and I totally got on with it immediately. Part of why it worked so well for me was that you could use cork board sort of to reorganize, drag and drop your chapters and see the whole novel at a glance. You could see the chapters, you could outline, like sum up in short sentences what the chapter was about. So you could have your structure even before you begin writing. You could just set in like slots for scenes, and then you could just write from whatever moment you wanted, and it was so comfortable. In the end of the month, if you win NanoWriMo, you get a 50% discount for Scrivener, which is why I kind of got the program. I was like, yes, I want this to be in my life, I want to have the license, it's valid forever. I was totally happy with it, and if you don't win, if you participate though, you get 25% discount, which is also really nice. So this is the background that I got. I feel like there are a lot of ways to go about NanoWriMo. If you cannot like use a laptop, you can dictate, you can write notes. I know some people use notepads and then they type it up. For me, the most efficient way to do it is the way that takes least amount of time, and for me typing is so much fun anyway that I'm enjoying it, the hell out of it. NanoWriMo is the most supportive spot because people in the forum are so helpful. If you have a weird question, there's always someone who knows what he's talking about, and I was so impressed by that. You know, like if you want to know what is realistic, if somebody falls from the 9th floor, like how many bones he would break, could he live, could he stand, what would actually happen? This is like your go-to spot for research, because you could find all people from all walks of life trying to find their stories. And if you have no idea but you would like to write something, you can register at the NanoWriMo forum and you can grab an outcast, like discarded idea from somebody else in a special thread. And I feel like this is such an awesome thing to do. Like if you just want to write, if you just want to practice, if you just want to have fun, it doesn't have to be serious. Some people are writing poetry, some people are writing fiction, some people are writing biographies or non-fiction books, and it's always something that you can work with. So there you go, guys. Those are my tips for Nano Prep. Me, myself, I'm going to finish outlining for some more of my characters, work on that damn arc, make sure that my novel is in good shape before I start so that I know what I need to work on, start with the hard scenes, polish up the relationships, work on that dialogue, because dialogue is killer. It's so hard to make memorable and plausible dialogue. I feel like my characters have been all over the place, from bitchy to reserved to very loud to very silent. It's a mayhem, but I'm going to fix it all later, I promise you. And let me know if you guys are participating in NanoWriMo and whether you like watching vlogs from NanoWriMo. Maybe I could do that this year. Let me know in the comments what you think about NanoWriMo, if you've ever written anything, and if you want to buddy up, find me in the link below in the description and we can definitely hit each other up and we can definitely communicate and have fun and just, you know, keep each other going. When you see that somebody on your buddy list has made more progress than you, you're like, oh my god, I gotta start writing immediately. So I hope this happens for you. I hope this definitely happens for me. I wanna get my nano streak on. and I'll see you guys on the 1st of November with my first writing update. Bye!